The Marlins just called up the 6'8" flamethrower Eury Perez. Francisco Alvarez is starting to play like Yordan Alvarez. Lock on in for today's episode as Matt and I provide you with must-add waiver wire players on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I am your host, Dominic Martino, here with my co-host, my partner in crime, my fantasy baseball colleague, Matthew Ane.
Yo, it's good, guys. You ready for a good episode?
Yes, sir. As always, you can find us on all social media platforms and podcasting apps. Just search for Locked On Fantasy Baseball and we'll be there. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it. If you could do that for us, it means a lot, helps the podcast grow. Also, if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes you to the channel, also gives you a notification every time that we drop a new episode. And once again, if you are on YouTube, please be sure to like and comment because we love to talk fantasy baseball with you. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Try the Gametime app today. Locked On Fantasy Baseball fans, we have a fully loaded episode for you today. Let us be your team's secret weapon as we provide you with the best players to add on today's episode. And boy, oh boy, do we have some big-time names to add today. And Matt, who do we got up first?
Well, I can't bury the lead here, which I say every episode since we teased the first person. But if you guys didn't see my video from yesterday from my little short on YouTube, let me refresh your memory. Mr. Eury Perez. Mr. Lanky, Mr. 6'8". I can pretty much touch home plate from the mound here. At 20 years old, the kid is just an absolute stud. The one thing he's known for is control. The kid can put the ball wherever he wants, and he has the track record to say it. In 2021, he finished the year with a 1.96 ERA across A and A+. He got a little lit up in Double-A with a 4.08 ERA, but that was within 75 innings. And you know what? My man just needed a little adjustment phase because this year he's just been an absolute monster with well under a sub-3 ERA at 2.32. My guy has 31 innings pitched. He has 42 Ks. The whip is well under a 1. And on his career in the minors, he's at a .978. Eury Perez is an absolute stud. And here's the thing. For me, he is probably one of the guys that I was most anxious to add this year, and I was waiting for the call. I wasn't actually sure. I actually thought this was going to be next year, and I didn't think the 20-year-old Eury Perez was going to get the call. But now that he is, I'm super excited. It means the team thinks that this kid is ready for the next step, and this kid just throws absolute gas. So Eury Perez is one of those guys that you have to just go out and get. He should be 100% owned. Right now, he's only 44% owned, so a lot of the fantasy baseball community has already been on that and been excited just as I have. And I think you need to, if he's available in that league, you need to go pause the podcast, go get him now, because Eury Perez might have some serious long-term value, not just in Keeper and Dynasty, but just for redraft alone. If he breaks out the way we think he can, God, it can be absolutely beautiful. And also, just let me take it on the negative side. Just everybody remember, he is a rookie. He's not a bona fide, like, boom, this kid is going to be sure thing, because nobody is, especially pitchers. It's not like a bat that can instantly translate. It can take some time. Pitchers usually take a little bit longer time to develop. So Eury Perez could have the couple of mulling through and deal with him being sent back down. But I feel right now he's still my number one add due to the fact that Eury Perez could be lights out from day one. So definitely add Eury Perez.
Yeah, out of all of the pitchers that we're talking about today, Eury Perez is definitely my favorite as well, brother. As you said, he's a control artist. He knows where to put the ball. He's also a flamethrower. His fastball tops out around 100 miles per hour. He sits in that 94 to 97 range. He has a 70 grade on that fastball. If you're not familiar with the prospect grading scale, it's a 20 to 80 scale, 20 being the lowest as possible, 80 being the highest as possible. So that fastball for Eury Perez tops out, a 70 grade. Curveball and slider aren't as good. The changeup is actually pretty good, though, too. So he does have something that to slow batters down. His changeup grades a 70. And I'm very excited about Eury Perez. Matt read you off those minor league stats. They're very, very impressive. Just once again, keep in mind, Eury Perez is only 20 years old, so he's very, very young. He's never pitched in AAA, so, he's getting that the jump right to the majors from AA. It might be a little bit of an adjustment period, but his first matchup comes, on Friday as you're listening to this against the Cincinnati Reds. So he gets a nice little, softball of a matchup here. And let's see who that second start lines up against, because that's going to be interesting here too for Eury Perez. And it's at home. It's at home. He doesn't have to worry about Cincinnati in that, very hitters-friendly ballpark. That second one looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. It could be either Washington or San Fran. So there you go. For Eury Perez, gets two nice little easy matchups for his first two starts. Very, very excited about Eury Perez. Not too much else I could add here, but just remember we had Brandon Pfaadt and a couple other pitchers come up and not perform as well. But I think Eury Perez is a little bit higher. He was the Marlins' #1 prospect. I think he was the 10th prospect in all of baseball before he got the call. Eury Perez once again is who we're talking about here. Probably the best waiver wire pitcher that we have for today, but we still do have a few more good ones, so make sure you lock on in with us as we go through the rest of these. Up next, we have my boy. I've talked about him a lot. I was high on him coming into the year. It's Jon Gray. So now Jon Gray has been a little bit of a mixed bag so far this season. A little bit of ups, a little bit of downs. His first 3 starts were all pretty solid, and then he had, a couple of not so great ones in a row. But here's the last start. He went at Seattle. Seattle's got a pretty good lineup. 7 innings for Jon Gray. He got the win, 8 strikeouts, gave up a run with a 0.57 whip. And guess who he gets up next? Those Oakland Athletics on May 13th. He's only 56% owned, which I think is a little bit low for a guy on the year that his numbers aren't atrocious. 3.82 ERA, 1.25 whip, 37 innings, 27 Ks. He does have that K per 9 upside, Jon Gray. We've seen him do it before. So I think he can get back up there. He's still adjusting to that new team. He had to pitch in Coors Field for, most of his career. And, a lot of pitchers have said when you pitch in Coors Field, you kind of have to adjust how you're pitching. So with this being his second year in Texas, I'm sure he's just trying to make those adjustments, finish things up, and, fine tune a little bit. I think he gets well back over that K per 9. The whip should be all right. He's not really been known to be a whip guy, but last year he had the 1.13 whip in 127 innings for the Texas Rangers. I think Jon Gray is a great pickup, probably right behind Eury Perez, as my second favorite pitcher pickup for this weekend.
Yeah, Jon Gray is just somebody that, if you don't know his career, he's just been, trapped in the cage, what is called Colorado, now that he's been freed. Yeah. We were just hoping that he would do a little bit more. The K per 9 was there last year, so I don't foresee it not being here this year. And, his ERA was under 4, unlike the rest of his career, except for in 2019. So I do like what Jon Gray could bring to the table. But again, like Dom said, it could be matchup based. Let's move on here. We got 2 closers here. I'm going to give you one. Dom's going to give you the other. We're going to go talk about my boy, Mr. Will Smith, the journeyman, Mr. Old Man, Mr. I've been around the block, Mr. Journey from the block himself, right? Will Smith seems to have been taking some steals from Batista, which isn't something that I feel great about. But the thing about him is Will Smith has a much higher ERA than Batista. Batista has actually been stellar, and I just don't.
He took the job from Jose Leclerc.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jeez, I'm doing this again. Leclerc.
You're good. You're good.
Okay, so Leclerc. I'm sorry. Leclerc has been bad and has had a 4.5 ERA, and I think that Will Smith can take the job out from under him. Sorry, I see the Baltimore hat on the Baseball Reference, and then things get mixed up, mix and match. It is what it is. But Will Smith is somebody that, has been a journeyman, has been in the closer position before, is doing slightly better than Leclerc in the ERA standpoint, but he's gotten the last 4 saves over the last 2 weeks, and that's where it matters right now. So you want to pick up Will Smith just on the fact that, hey, he's getting the opportunity, and he's the guy that's going to have it done. And also, here's just another thing with just Will Smith. He's only 58% owned, so he's out there in about 42% of my math is terrible today. 42% of leagues. So you need to scoop him up, especially if you missed out on saves. Up next, we're going to have some great names such as Christopher Morel, Francisco Alvarez, and Jorge Soler. So don't miss out on that. Our new sponsor, So Rare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transforming fans into owners with official licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with their cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards and there's no cost to play. So Rare recently partnered with MLB stars such as Juan Soto and Julio Rodriguez to serve as brand ambassadors. Both are featured in So Rare current brand campaigns and will engage with the So Rare community throughout the MLB season. Head to sorare.com/lockedon, and that's spelled SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, start competing today to win epic prizes. Again, that's sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today. We want to thank our everydayers, new listeners, for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. Be sure to look out for our new episode on Monday, as always, for our waiver wire episode for any of the guys we missed that performed over the top over the weekend. So please don't miss out on that. And Dom, please give your take on Mr. Will Smith. I've talked enough.
Yeah, brother. I'll chime in here. Once again, we're talking about Will Smith, the closer, not Will Smith, the catcher for the Dodgers here,
or the Fresh Prince.
Yes, or the Fresh Prince, or the football player. You know, there's a lot of. If you guys aren't familiar, there used to be a guy named Will Smith that played for the Saints. If you're a football fan, and we used to. I forget. A quick funny story. Matt, I think it was your brother Mark that we used to say that was the Will Smith, this like the actor, and he just played football part-time too, and we always used to get a good laugh out of that.
That was
so shout out to my boy Mark on there, my partial little brother. But let's talk about Will Smith here. Will Smith has closing experience before and closing pedigree. In 2021 for the Atlanta Braves, Will Smith had a 3.44 ERA, 37 saves, 68 innings pitched, and 87 strikeouts. And then he was an all-star. Once again, Will Smith, the closer, all-star in 2019 with the San Francisco Giants, 2.76 ERA, 34 saves, 65 innings, and 96 strikeouts. So Will Smith does have closer pedigree. He's a very, very solid arm. If he's out there in your league and you need a closer, I think he's a very, very solid add. As Matt mentioned, he's 58% owned on Yahoo right now. His numbers are great on the year: 14 innings, 6 saves, 17 Ks, 3.21 ERA, 107 whip. But let's keep it pushing here. Let's talk about someone I'm excited to talk about. It's Yennier Cano. I will spell that for you guys if you're on the audio here. It's Yennier Cano, as in Robinson Cano. I do not believe they are related, but Mr. Yennier Cano is just very, very talented. He's a little bit older to be having a breakout at 29 years old, but the thing is, I think he worked on his sinker in the offseason because his sinker has 9.5 more inches of drop than the average sinker. So think about that. If you played baseball, you understand that a sinker dropping off a cliff like that is just almost impossible to hit, and his fastball velocity is pretty solid. He throws very hard, so he could switch up from that fastball to that sinker, and if you're not looking for one or the other and he hits you with it, it's going to really, really be tough to deal with. But let's talk about Yennier's stats on the season, because he has not even given up a run yet. So that's a 0 ERA for Mr. Yennier Cano over 18 innings, 22 strikeouts, and guess what? He hasn't walked a guy yet either. So no walks, no runs, only 3 hits in 18 innings, 22 strikeouts. He also has 3 saves. I mean, Felix Bautista has not been bad, but I can see, them over there in Baltimore going with whoever, is more fit for the situation for saves. So it could almost be a timeshare. So I would say this: if you have Felix Bautista, you might want to handcuff him with Yennier Cano, who's 53% owned on Yahoo already, and it's only going to keep climbing. If anything ever happens to Bautista, or if he starts, as Matt would say, pooping in his big boy pants, Cano is going to get the job. So with Yennier Cano, I think he's a very, very imminent pickup. Him and Will Smith are very, very close, as who I would add. It's kind of more of a, if who's available in your league, one or the other. If they're both available, I don't know. I might lean Yennier Cano, to be honest with you. I think this guy just has very, very electric stuff working on that sinker in the offseason.
So I don't disagree with you in the fact that Cano has some upside, but I'm going to roll with Will Smith if I had to prioritize who
Hey,
I'm going to snag on the
fair enough.
Yeah, and I mean it's only just based off of one's at a committee and one's not, and this was actually the argument I was trying to make for Will Smith. I was getting it backwards. So
No, 100% right. 100%
so
right.
here's the thing: Felix Bautista the last 2 weeks has 3 saves, whereas Yennier has, I believe, 2, and they both have about the same, a little bit over a K per 9, which is nice. But Bautista has a 1.69 ERA right now, and he's not in a position where he's going to lose his job. But Cano is right up his rump where, on that third day when you realize that, hey, Batista is not going to get that opportunity, Cano could be that nice handcuff, because we really don't do too many handcuffs in fantasy baseball. But in this scenario, when you have the full committee of 2 reliable guys, essentially, at least for now, that Cano could be reliable, you might want to add them just based off the fact that, say you're in a roto league where, you got to pile on those saves just for the category to win the category. Yennier could be that plus person that can, take you in for that next day for the Baltimore saves. But let's move on here.
Real quick. Yeah. And one thing we don't talk about a lot on this show that we probably should mention a little more, if you're in a league that accounts for holds, you got to get Yennier Cano because he has a decent amount of holds on the season too.
Yeah, I like that because I didn't even think to bring that up. That was a beautiful point there, man.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, brother.
Let's bring up our last pitcher here, and that's Mr. JP France. I don't know if anybody's really heard about this guy, but he is killing it for the Houston Astros. My guy is 6 foot, 216 pounds. He's about 28 years old, and I'm really loving what he's doing. He's a little bit more of a later, kind of older breakout guy, which my theory on that. I usually don't believe in late age breakouts, except my rule for the exception is with pitchers, because it's more of a chess match. The older you get, the smarter you get, and the better you are to beat somebody at chess, essentially. And all that is what pitching is a chess match. And JP France is coming out and doing his thing. So before he got called up, he had 19 innings, and this is in 2023. He had 19 innings, 26 strikeouts. He only had a 2.33 ERA, and he was absolutely mutilating everybody in the minor leagues. So they called him up, and he lived up to the hype with five innings pitched. He had 5 Ks, gave up nothing, and only had a 0.8 WHIP. I mean, if that isn't stepping up to the plate and just taking it, rolling it right in from the minors to the bigs and translating instantly, give you the vote of confidence, then I don't know what else will, because JP France so far seems to be it. He looks like he's going to have this for at least a couple more starts before, we start mixing in somebody we talked about yesterday, like Lance McCullers, depending on what his timetable looks like. Other people like that can maybe work their way back into the lineup and into the rotation. But right now, JP France seems to have the corner and pretty much a job as long as he doesn't knock himself out of it. So I would pick up JP France without a doubt.
Yeah, brother, you're spot on, and I don't know. I know Jose Urquidy's hurt as well, so by the time that one of them get back, I don't know if France sticks in the rotation. I guess it kind of really depends on what he shows us over the next couple of weeks here. I'm not super familiar with France. I'll be honest with you guys. I really didn't hear about him until he got the call and kind of looked at his minor league numbers. They're not blowing me away except for this current year. Matt read you off the JP France's numbers in the minors this year. Over the past 3 years before that, from 2019 to 2022, he sat around a high 3s, low 4s ERA, was around a strikeout per 9, a little bit over in most of those years, actually. So the strikeout capability is there. I think it's more of a, okay, pick him up, juice the orange, get what you can out of JP France until these other guys come back. He goes up against the Chicago White Sox on May 12th. So that's a pretty solid matchup for, JP France. Once again, kind of just ride the wave with him for now. But real quick, have you ever tried to buy tickets to see your favorite artist or sports team and wound up being stressed out by how much of a hassle it can be? Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. That's why you need to check out the Gametime app. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Using the Gametime app is super rewarding with flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, image of the seats that you'll be sitting in and the views from those seats, lowest price guarantee, and event cancellation protection. I mean, there's a reason it's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets and the lowest price is always guaranteed. All right, guys, we're moving into some hitters, so make sure you lock on in for the rest of the episode. I promise you don't want to miss any of these names. We have a bunch of good ones for you, starting off with the young buck, Christopher Morel. And I know we love this term on here on Locked On Fantasy Baseball, but Christopher Morel is a Swiss Army knife on Yahoo. He's eligible at second, third, shortstop, and outfield, which is can't ask for more. I want to preface this, though. I don't know if Morel is going to play every single day because he got called up as Nico Hoerner got hurt. And, Nico Hoerner has been pretty good so far in the season. And, Morel has come up and played second base where Nico Hoerner had been playing. So, Morel might not see everyday playing time. I could be wrong. I'm not going to guarantee that. But I just want to say, if you're picking up Morel thinking you could stick him in your lineup every single day, I can't guarantee you that. Right now, Morel's 51% owned on Yahoo. He's been fantastic so far, though. Through his first 2 games, he has multi-hits in both of them. He has, I'll just read you off both games. On May 9th against the Cardinals, Morel 2 for 4, a run, home run, RBI, and a steal. And then on May 10th, Morel 2 for 4 with a run and 2 RBIs. So far hitting 500, and the numbers look very, very good for Morel. In the minors, let's go with the minors this year. So far in the minors, before he got called up, Morel had 29 games played, 115 at-bats, 31 runs, 9 doubles, 2 triples, 11 homers, 31 RBIs, 4 steals, and he hit .330. The plate discipline is not great for Morel, so that always scares me with a young hitter coming up. But, Matt and I always do talk about in modern-day baseball, you can strike out a lot and still be successful at the plate. But I love the power-speed combo here for Morel. He's 24 years old, right around that age where, okay, it's kind of like, are you coming up or, you're going to wind up being a minor league type of guy. But the Cubs said, hey, we're playing good. Let's give Morel the shot, as they had just called up Matt Mervis too recently. And I think Morel's worth the chance, especially for a guy coming off of your bench. He's like a souped-up Brendan Donovan in the sense of, okay, you have him on your bench. Somebody gets, the day off, you punch Christopher Morel in. In those deeper leagues, he'll probably wind up being more of a, okay, I got to keep him in my lineup. But yeah, your average 12-man league, your 10-man league, he's going to be somebody. Take him off the bench, throw Christopher Morel in. And I think he has a chance to be very, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Morel, being that he has multiple position eligibility, is automatically a plus for me. But also, too, I mean, here's the thing. I feel like with 2020 happening with the whole pandemic, he was about to find something because in 2019, he batted .284. Then he comes back after not playing all of 2020, had a .223 ERA, batting average. There you go. And then in 2022, he had a .306 batting average. And then, obviously going to the bigs, it's going to be a little bit of a transition for him. And then he comes back this year in the minors and was batting .330 and now translates to the bigs, hitting the ball appropriately. I think that Morel may have found what he was going into in 2019 with the 2020 lapse that he could have found, and now he's caught up to it. So Morel may give you that batting average. This is all speculative, of course, but he's definitely somebody worth the ad. Now let's talk about it. Yeah, but let's talk about somebody else that I really do like, and that honestly this should be everybody's favorite, prospect, at least for catcher. That's Mr. Francisco Alvarez. Alvarez has had a nice week because, man, 2 dongs, 4 ribs. I mean, not 4 ribs, 4 runs, 2 ribs, batting .286. He started off a little slow because on the year he has a .228 average. He only has 7 runs out of the 4 that he scored this week, and 3 home runs out of the 2 he scored last week. And only has 4 ribs out of the last 2 weeks, and then another 2 for the whole season. So when he got called up, it was really slow start. It looked like he wasn't going to transition. Really wasn't sure what was going to happen with Alvarez, especially since he didn't break camp. So now that I'm seeing him starting to have a breakout week, he had a 2-dong day. I really do like the upside of Alvarez. Maybe we're going to see him turn a corner and be valuable for fantasy. And quite honestly, I mean, if you have like a unperforming catcher, for instance, or just a catcher that isn't playing every day, you might want to scoop up Alvarez and see if you can either substitute or just instantly supplant what you currently have and put Alvarez in the mix and see what happens. Because at this point, you know how catcher goes. You kind of just want to get somebody that plays almost every single day and that is kind of producing, because if you don't have one of the top end catchers, it is what it is. You just kind of scrape the barrel and see what you can get. And Alvarez might be above just scraping the bottom of the barrel and may be a plus into your lineup. And I'm not promising anything, but he has that potential, because if you look at, just based off of what he did in his past in the minors, he has that kind of upside. And you know what? Alvarez is a great prospect, because in 2022, he had 27 home runs, 78 ribs, 74 runs. He did bat 260. He's not going to blow you away in the batting average category, but he could help you out in power and ribs and all that wonderful stuff, especially in that Mets lineup. So if he returns to that form and does what he did in the minors, Alvarez can be a super bump to that lineup. So definitely check him out.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you guys, and if you guys listen to our prospect episodes coming into the year, I wasn't very high on Francisco Alvarez. I thought it was going to take him time to adjust. The Mets were kind of playing we're not going to bring up our prospects game with him and Beatty. So I was kind of low on him. But let's not forget that after Corbin Carroll and Gunnar Henderson got called up last year, Francisco Alvarez was the number one prospect in all of baseball. Matt read you off, those minor league stats in 2022, and then in 2021, he also had 24 home runs in 99 games. So Francisco Alvarez has big time power. He has Yordan Alvarez type power. Maybe that's why they got the same last name over there. I guess the power runs with the last name. And he's upside. 15% owned on Yahoo for Francisco Alvarez. I think pick him up and just see where things go. He might not be playing every single day, but let's give the 21-year-old Francisco Alvarez a break for now, and let's just see where things go with him. I think there's a chance he could hit 25, 30 home runs, and in that Mets lineup, the counting stats should be pretty decent for him too, especially hitting out of the 9-hole, because you know what, that Mets lineup is pretty solid. But let's move on to our next guy here, somebody else that probably has actually more power than Francisco Alvarez, and that is Jorge Soler. We like to call him Soler Power because that he's just outrageous in that power department, and it looks like he's finally turning a little bit of a corner here of late. On this another guy, he's not going to blow you away in that batting average department, but let's not forget the huge 2019 where he hit 48 bombs. In 2021, he had 27 bombs. Over the last a couple of seasons, though, he hasn't been fully healthy. Couple little bit of phalanges issues there for Jorge Soler. But this year so far in 36 games, 132 at bats, he has 17 runs, 9 doubles, 9 home runs, 20 RBIs, and he's hitting 235. I would, he's a career 241 hitter, Jorge Soler, so he's probably going to be right around there. But I think he legitimately has 35 home run upside here, in that Marlins lineup. It looks like they've been playing decent ball over the past few weeks. And, Jorge Soler, I think he had a double dong on May 9th. He's been hitting a lot of home runs lately, 21% owned on Yahoo. I think he's definitely worth the pickup if you need a little bit of outfield help. Once again, Jorge Soler.
Yeah, Soler could be, your influx of power. And quite honestly, just treat him like Joey Gallo over the past years where, hey, I'm just going to get a whole bunch of home runs, but he's going to obliterate my batting average. But it is what it is. If you can get that kind of power off the waiver wire, you can't really beat that production. So, it is what it is. But let's move on here. Let's talk about one of my favorite guys that I just was like, finally, my guy has figured it out, and that's Mr. Jarren Duran. It's a disservice to him, by the way, because he's only 54% owned. I feel he should be in the 70s or 80%, because if you haven't heard about him, I'm going to tell you about him, and you're going to get your mind blown right now, because Duran, yes, he struggled over the last couple years, not really living up to the hype. Not having the batting average and really not putting the ball to the bat at all. Only thing he could do is really just steal bases, because in here, I'm going to talk all down and then we'll start talking up. In 2021, when he got the first call, he had a 215 batting average. In 2022, when he got the call up, he had a 221. So at least there was improvement, air quotes. And then in 2023, now he's figuring it out with a 372 batting average. But let's talk about what he did leading up to getting the call and why he got the call. All right. In 2019, the kid had 46 stolen bases. He batted 303. He really isn't a power guy, even though he showed it in 2021 with 16 home runs and 244 at bats. Maybe he just turned a corner and just developed a man body, or just started pulling the ball because he had a 258 average. Probably sacrificed a little average for power, like most of the average baseball players these days do. And maybe that's just his new strategy, and maybe he just overcompensated. But it looks like he's returning to the roots, and he's stealing bases because right now he has 6 stolen bases since he's been up. He has 14 ribbies, two home runs, 12 doubles, which is fantastic, which, just a little bit more air under the sails in the ball, and he has a home run or 2 more, and he has 14 runs. And Boston has been proven to be a better team than we all thought. I mean, to be honest, the AL East is just a better division than everybody thought. So Jarren Duran is benefiting from all of that. I think that Jarren Duran should be well more owned and should be somebody that everybody should be focusing on. Outside of like Morel and Alvarez, I'm honestly trying to add Duran, and possibly if I miss out on stolen bases, he's probably the guy I'm trying to add. So, it's one of those things where I love Duran, and I think you should scoop him up every which way you can.
Yeah, Matt, that's spot on analysis with Duran. I'll be honest, I don't think he's going to wind up being a power guy, because in the years that he did hit for a little bit more power, it looks like he sacrificed that average. But I think that's what's working for him. I think he came up the last couple of years when he got his little cup of coffee in 2021 and 2022. He might have been trying to swing for more of that power. That's why we didn't see the batting average from Duran that we had seen in the minors. So I think he realized what works for him. Hey, let me just, do what I can. Let me slap the ball around. He's hitting for a 372 average over 22 games so far this year for Duran, 26-year-old breakout. I should have said this when we were talking about Francisco Alvarez. Sometimes hitting prospects, I say this all the time, it's kind of like my philosophy these days. Hitting prospects take time to develop. We've been spoiled over the last few years with Acuna, with Soto, with Tatis. But guys take time. It's not, back in the day, before all of these guys, you never really saw prospects come up and, rake. Go back and look at Mike Trout. Go back and look at Bryce Harper. When they first came up, they weren't absolutely dominant like, look at Vladdy Guerrero. A lot of these guys don't come up and translate right away. Duran looks like he's figured it out. Matt mentioned that ownership is like 54% on Yahoo. I think he should be 100% owned right now. He's going to give you great steals. He's going to help you in the runs department. He's, doing all right in the RBI department. It looks like he's going to be a 4-category guy. And, if he ever does, start hitting, if he winds up being a 15 to 20 home run guy, forget about it. He has potential to come in next year and be like a top 5 round pick, top 20 outfielder. Duran has a lot of upside, and he's gonna, rock and roll with that Duran, that Duranness to him. I'm a huge fan of him. But guys, you know what, Matt? Anything else here before we tune out?
Yeah, I want to say the upside could be Starling Marte. So like,
oh yeah,
25, 25, 25.
Spot on analogy.
Like kid could steal every base under the sun and then still put up a nice little home run basis just to keep it going. So that's really what you could be adding right now. But Dom, take it away, sir.
Yeah, guys, go out and get Jarren Duran. Matt, I'm just gonna say a little bit more. When Matt and I were talking about him and we saw that ownership at 54, we knew we had to fit him in here somewhere, because I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me why he's not more highly owned. So go out there, add Jarren Duran, and you'll definitely be happy with the results. But guys, that is all for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Check out our website if you already haven't. And just a huge thank you to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And make sure you lock on with us for a new episode on Monday, where we will be covering all of the waiver wire players that, get something done over the weekend, and maybe throw in a few guys that we missed today or did not have the chance to talk about. But until then, see you.
Peace.